Hi there, my name is Jamil Dabir and I recently passed the 2021 PMP. In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 different strategies that I used in order to help me pass the PMP. I'm going to start by just giving you a high-level overview of what each of my 6 strategies are, and then I'm going to talk about each of these strategies in a little bit more detail. So the first strategy is that you should use a good variety of sources when you're preparing for your PMP. The second strategy is to aim to get your exam done and over with in a decent amount of time, fairly short amount of time. Third strategy is not to memorize ETOs, processes, or sections of the PM BOK. My fourth strategy is just to share with you some of the traditional PM content that's still valid and will still be helpful for you on the 2021 PMP. The fifth thing I want to talk about is some of the newer PM content related to agile servant leadership, situational questions, and how it can be useful towards passing the PMP. The sixth and final thing I want to talk to you about is the importance of practice tests. So let's get into it. The first strategy I want to share with you is to use a good variety of sources when you're preparing for the PMP exam. This isn't ideal, but what I'm going to tell you is the year is 2021 right now, and this is a new exam. So when I was preparing for this, I found that there was a certain amount of uncertainty with regards to what's actually on the exam. My recommendation, my 2 best sources were Joseph Phillips' Udemy course, and I complemented that with some of Andrew Ramdale's free YouTube videos, which covered areas like situational questions really well. In addition, Andrew Ramdale has good videos that go over just PMP practice test questions and how he goes about solving them, what the answers are. It goes through the thought process, which I found really helpful. Okay, second strategy I want to talk to you about is getting through this whole process of studying for the PMP and writing it in a short amount of time. So you may have heard things about older versions, how much time you should spend studying, all that sort of thing. For my personal journey, I got through this in about 3 months. And for the first 6 weeks out of that 3 months, I wasn't really trying all that hard. I wasn't putting a lot of time into studying. I did things like I put together my application with PMI. I did PSM1. I did some work on my business. I did some coursework at the university. So I wasn't 100% committed. The last 6 weeks was where I got really serious. So if you think about it, I could have probably done it in 7 weeks. And with the next section, I'm going to talk to you about cutting out some of the content that isn't as helpful for the PMP test. I believe that people could be able to obtain the PMP in a month, possibly even less time. Okay, so the third section of this talk, I'm just going to get into some of the things you probably aren't going to want to focus on too much. I think that ETOs, processes, or just trying to memorize sections of the PM BOK, the Project Management Body of Knowledge, won't be super helpful on the new PMP exam. So ETOs are inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. And basically every process in the traditional predictive project management method has its own set of ETOs. This isn't going to come up, or if it does come up, it's going to be a few questions, and it's something that you don't need to focus as heavily upon. What I would still say is you're still going to want to have a good overview of predictive project management. You're definitely going to want to know initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, closing, and what's involved in each of those phases and what they look like at a higher level. But memorizing every single process within those groups or knowing the ETOs for each of those processes is too much detail, and it won't help you as much as it may have in the past. So ETOs and processes, I feel like it's old school. It's what was on the older exams, and it's not necessarily as heavily emphasized on the new 2021 exam. What are some of the good old content that is still highly relevant? So this is the fourth section I want to talk about. So I'm not going to give you a comprehensive list, but I'll tell you things that will certainly come up, and I think that'll hopefully give you an idea of what you need to be studying. So an example of something that will show up is like earned value management. In particular, within earned value management, you will definitely see questions on CPI and SPI, that's cost performance index and schedule performance index. You might not necessarily get a heavily mathematical question. It might be more like the CPI is 0.8. What does that mean? And what it means is your project is over budget. Or if you have a CPI of 1, what does that mean? It means your project's on budget. Those types of questions. Another good example of something you'd need to know is like what a network diagram is, what it looks like, and how you would go about finding the critical path on a network diagram. Traditionally, with network diagrams, you get into things like the forward pass and the backward pass, your late start, early finish, late finish. Those, the emphasis has been taken away from that, I found, and there's less focus on float, those types of things. I think they're still important to know for your life as a PM, the actually being in the practice of project management, but it didn't really come up on the test too much. And just to emphasize these last 2 points that I've talked about, I took the online PMP exam, and you have a little calculator built into the exam. I didn't use the calculator at all. There were a few math type questions, and they were very simple. I was able to do the math more or less in my head. So if you're putting a ton of time into memorizing formulas or algorithms to solve mathematical problems, that's probably not where the emphasis is going to be. In my case, taking this exam, that certainly wasn't where the emphasis was. Other types of things you need to know, like Pareto chart, know what a Pareto chart is, know what it means, know what an Ishikawa diagram is, know what that means. Definitely know Tuckman's model for team development. Know forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Know what each of those means with regards to team development. That's really important. So once again, this isn't a complete list, but these are the types of subject areas that you're going to want to have a good grasp of and a good understanding of in order to pass the PMP exam. So some good new PMP content. When I took the PMP exam, it was about 50% agile. So you want to have a really good grasp of agile. Know Scrum. You're going to want to know Scrum inside and out. You're going to want to know a lot about Kanban. You're going to want to know a lot about extreme programming as well. One resource that I didn't find out about until a little later was that PMI actually has an Agile handbook. It's a good idea to go ahead and just read the Agile handbook. It's a couple hundred pages, but it's big font, lots of empty space on the pages, so it's very doable. The next type of question that's really important, and I found to be newer subject matter, was the situational type questions. Andrew Ramdale does a great job covering these in his YouTube videos. I think a lot of this might sound intimidating, like mindset or situational questions. A lot of it, what it boils down to, though, is going to be like they're almost like life lessons, I would say. So I would boil them down to things like don't be a tattletale. You'll see a question about, your your coworker makes a mistake. Do you tell HR about it, or do you work with your coworker, show him where he went wrong, and help him out? Pretty straightforward stuff. A lot of like think first, act second. You'll be presented with a situation, and the correct answer is typically going to have a keyword like review in it. So you're going to want to review a document. You're going to want to review a process before you just like go ahead and act on anything. Uh, Another one of these situational type life lessons is like don't listen to gossip. Find things out for yourself. So if you see a question like, someone has your coworkers are telling you that someone is a poor performer and they've been assigned to your project. What do you do? And You're gonna have to find out for yourself. So and so said someone's a bad performer. It doesn't mean they are. Maybe it just means that someone doesn't like them. They might be perfectly good at their job. It's just gossip. It's just hearsay. So don't fall for that kind of thing. The other big life lesson be like kicking the can down the road, right? If you're reading one of these situational questions and some of your answers are like, just ignoring a problem or letting it fester type of thing, you don't want to go down that route. That's going to be the incorrect answer. Okay. Oh, one last thing I want to say about situational questions is just that they have almost, I get the feeling they almost like take the place of the old process questions. So situational and process are kind of like blended together. So it's good to have that high level knowledge of process and to also have just these concrete, straightforward rules that I've kind of laid out. And if you go see some of Andrew Ramdale's videos, he lays out these rules for answering these situational type questions fairly easily, pretty straightforward. So I think in a lot of ways they've maybe taken process questions and made them easier by blending them with the by blending them with the situational type questions. Okay, last strategy I want to give you is just to make sure you do lots of practice exams and lots of practice tests. I spent a bit of time doing assignments in my Udemy course. I'm not entirely convinced that assignments are the right way to go about studying for the PMP exam. If you think about this logically, like the PMP exam is an exam, it's not an assignment. So there's no short answer questions on the PMP exam. There's no long answer questions on the PMP exam. There's multiple choice questions, there's drag and drop questions, and there's questions where you're maybe picking something on a graph. I didn't even see anything too much like that though, but you're not going to be typing things on your keyboard for this exam. When you're prepping or when you're doing practice tests, practice questions, they should be pretty short, straightforward, direct. On the PMP exam, you're not going to see a big block of text for a question. It's going to be 2, 3, 4 sentences. And when you're doing practice tests, practice questions, they should be similar. Another pointer is just when you're doing practice tests, a good chunk of them should be hybrid and agile type questions. I had mentioned earlier that about half the exam is agile and hybrid. So half your practice questions should probably be agile and hybrid too. That would be most beneficial. Okay, thanks for taking the time to watch my video. I'm planning to do another one eventually, talking more about the scrum.org program and my experience getting the PSM1, and I'm currently working on the PSPO, that's the Professional Scrum Product Owner, so be sure to check those out later. And if you're planning to write the PMP exam anytime soon, wish you good luck. It's probably easier than it used to be, is the gist that I'm getting. So study hard, but also just aim to get it done. Don't let it go on forever. And best of luck to everyone. Thank you.